All right, if you're tackling the C11 exam, you know some concepts can really trip you up. Well, today, we're going to master one of the big ones, proximate cause. Let's break it down so you can walk into your exam feeling totally confident.
So let me paint a picture for you. Imagine there's a crazy rainstorm, the streets are flooding, and then you see it. Water is backing up through the drain in your basement. Everything is a total mess. Now you might think, okay, it's water damage, but what really caused it? Are you covered? Answering that question means finding the very first event that set everything off, and that's exactly what proximate cause helps us do.
And really, that's what insurance is all about, right? It's about solving these puzzles, figuring out the true original cause of a loss by following the breadcrumbs all the way back to the beginning.
So let's trace the chain for our flooded basement. First, you've got the heavy rain. That rain totally overwhelms the city's storm sewers. Because the sewers are full, the water has nowhere to go but back up through the drain and into your home. Now, the immediate thing that wrecked your stuff was the water, no doubt. But the original event that kicked this whole thing off, that was the sewer backup. And here's the kicker. In a lot of policies, sewer backup is specifically excluded. That distinction is everything.
So how do we figure this out every time? Well, it all comes down to a really simple idea. I like to call it the first domino rule, and it is absolutely the key to understanding proximate cause. Okay, let's get the official textbook definition out of the way, the one you've got to know for the exam. Proximate cause is the immediate and effective cause of the loss, which in a chain of circumstances leads naturally and directly to the loss. And that last part is so important, an uninterrupted unfolding of events. I know, it sounds a little dense, right? So forget all that jargon for a second. Let's make it simple. Just think of it as the very first domino you push over. It's that one single event that starts a chain reaction, and everything else just follows naturally. No new forces, no one coming in and pushing another domino from the side. You find that first domino, you found your proximate cause. Simple as that. Now, in the real world, especially with messy claims, you're not just looking at one cause. You're looking at a whole chain of them. And to figure out if there's coverage, we need to know what to call each link in that chain. So here's how it breaks down. You've got the proximate cause, that's our superstar, the first domino, the one the law cares about. Then you've got the immediate cause. That's the very last thing that happens right before the loss. In our basement example, that's the water coming in. And any other cause that's just too disconnected or far away, we call that a remote cause. And here's the golden rule. For a claim to get paid, the peril you're insured for has to be the proximate cause. Theory is one thing, right? But the best way to really nail this stuff for your exam is to see how it plays out with some real-world examples. So let's look at a couple of classics from your C11 materials. All right, first up, let's talk about Clara's building. A huge fire breaks out next door. Fire is an insured peril. The flames and heat are so intense they seriously damage and weaken the walls of Clara's building. Later, her building collapses. So what's the proximate cause? It's the fire. Even though the collapse happened later, it was a direct, natural, uninterrupted result of the fire. That's our first domino. So Clara's claim? It's covered. And now for a really famous one you might see, the squib case. It's a classic for a reason. So, some guy throws a lit firecracker into a crowded market. The person it lands near, naturally, panics and throws it away. The next person does the same thing, so on, like a game of hot potato. Finally, it explodes and injures somebody. So who's at fault? The court said it was the first person who threw it. Why? Because everyone else was just reacting instinctively to the danger he created. The chain of events was never broken. His throw was the proximate cause. Okay, so we've seen an uninterrupted chain. But what does a broken chain look like? Well, check this out. You've got a house being renovated, and it's covered by a tarp. A rainstorm hits, water seeps through the tarp and causes a ton of damage. Is that covered? Probably not. See, for most policies to cover rain damage, an insured peril, like wind, has to create the opening first. It has to rip a hole in the roof. Here, the opening, the tarp, was already there. The wind didn't start the chain. The pre-existing condition did. That's a broken chain. Okay, you've got the definition, you've got the domino metaphor, and you've seen the examples. I think you're ready. Let's put that knowledge to the test with a quick quiz and see if you can spot that all-important first domino. First question for you. A fire in a neighboring building is considered a remote cause of loss if A. It directly causes your building to collapse, B. Your neighbor later hires a negligent contractor who causes the collapse, C. It is the immediate and effective cause of the loss, or D. It is an insured peril under your policy. What do you think? And the correct answer is B.
The contractor screw-up is a brand new intervening event that breaks the chain, making that original fire a remote cause.
Question number 2. What is the single defining feature of a proximate cause? Is it A, it is the last event before the loss? B, it's an event not covered by insurance? C, it starts an uninterrupted chain of events? Or D, it's always the most obvious cause?
The answer has to be C. It starts an uninterrupted chain of events. That whole domino effect idea, that is the #1 thing you need to remember.
Question 3. Let's go back to that famous case in the squid case. Why was the very first person who threw the firecracker the one held liable? Was it A, because the other people acted unreasonably? B, because he was the only one with insurance? C, because everyone else was just reacting to the emergency he created? Or D, because the firecracker was faulty?
And the answer is C. The court saw their actions not as new causes but as a continuation of the emergency the first guy started, which kept that original chain of events going.
And our final question. This is the big one, the main takeaway. For an insurance claim to be paid, the loss has to be caused by an insured peril that was the A, remote cause, B, immediate cause, C, proximate cause, or D, only cause.
You got it. The answer is C, proximate cause. That is the fundamental rule you have to know. The covered peril must be the proximate cause.